Is there proof that twin flames exist? I believe there is. So when I studied philosophy at the university, I had a seminar on wonders versus laws of nature, you could say. And the difference is that a wonder, according to some philosophers, is something that can happen only once. If it does happen on multiple occasions, you cannot see it as a wonder, because then it has to be like some kind of law of nature, even if you don't understand it yet. Even if you cannot prove why exactly is that happening. And another thing is, when I wrote my bachelor thesis, I studied literature as well, and I wrote my bachelor thesis on Harry Potter. I wanted to find out why are some characters, well, Harry Potter versus Voldemort, why is one good, the other one bad, when they had a same thing happening in their childhood. Both lost their parents and didn't grow up with their parents and grew up in difficult situations. Why did one turn out good and the other one bad? So I read a lot of psychology books on that, especially the books of the children's psychiatrist and psychologist John Bowlby, who observed children growing up. And I'm saying this because when we observe something and we find patterns, then we can say, yes, it's not a wonder, it's just not a coincidence, there is a pattern behind there. And then scientists, my brother is a biophysicist, so I know that in science, when you want to prove something, you don't do this test once, because then something weird may have happened, it could have been a coincidence. So you have to repeat a test again and again and again and again. And also in psychology, there is case studies. They talk to a group of people to find out that if people who have the same thing going on, why is there a pattern? And then when they do find a pattern, they say, yes, that is what it is. And then maybe they give it a name, or the physicist would say, yes, I proved that right, the practical physicist, because I repeated this experiment over and over and over again. It always had the same results. Or John Bowlby, he was observing children losing their parents or parents losing their children, and he found patterns. And there is like the stages of grief. You heard of them before, right? So there is different patterns, and as soon as a scientist would find a pattern by seeing it happen again and again and again and again and again, they say, okay, now it's not a coincidence. Now we can say there is a law of nature, even if we would not understand the reason behind that. When we talk about twin flames, and I have to say here, I'm sorry, but I honestly believe that about, 80% is low, probably more than 90% of people that think that they found their twin flame have not found their twin flame. That is maybe they're dealing with a karmic or a catalyst, or they just romanticizing and falsely labeling someone a twin flame. And I have to mention this because there are people who say, okay, twin flames are narcissists or stuff like that, which cannot be further from the truth, because we are talking about divine counterparts, we're talking about divine energy. Of course, there may be some distorted energy that needs to be healed, but a twin flame would not abuse the other. So there's people in these kind of situations and they cannot get out, and then they say, okay, or we do have the running and chasing going on, so this must be a twin flame. Those are not the ones we're talking about right now. Okay, we're talking about true twin flames. And I have this video about 20 signs you found your twin flame. And a person who would have found their true twin flame would recognize those signs, which means that we do have a group of people, those who made the real deal, and they're all talking about the same things, the same things happening to them. Of course, there may be like minor differences because everything is a bit individual, but they all talk about, or many talk about, yes, I had a premonition before I met them. They would say, okay, I met them and oh my God, it was like the spiritual high. I felt this would change my life for forever. Many had the Kundalini awakening. Many had this deep trust. Then they start this ascension journey. So they're not stuck in this dark energy for years to come. But they really get into the work and they see, this person completely changed my life. It changed the way I think about myself. It changed the way I think about many things in my life. It changed the way I think about love. And there's this healing, it's divine. There is signs and synchronicities like crazy, but be aware, because you can manifest synchronicities and signs. If you really want them, then you get them. But in a divine connection, you're bombarded like them in a way that you absolutely know, okay, I did not manifest seeing 1111 occasionally. I get bombarded with the most weird stuff all of the time. So there is a pattern going on. And the main pattern, of course, in a true twin flame connection is the purging, is the awakening, and a rapid ascension. And we're talking about skyrocketing ascension. If you're not having that, you're not dealing with a twin flame. So people who experience that, or they meet a true divine counterpart, are all experiencing the same patterns. Maybe not everything in the exact same order, but you all have the same sensations even before knowing what is a twin flame. When we talk about signs, again, remember, if you see something happening once, yeah, that's nothing. But if you do find a pattern, then yeah, we can give it a name. In this case, we can give it a name, twin flame. You can give it another name, because it's not the name that matters, it's the sensation that happens within a person meeting the other person. You know, they meet someone and it changes their entire life completely. There may be a dark night of the soul part, but it changes their life for the better, because they get to strip away all of the shadows. There may be some dark days, yes, but most of all, they are happy to have met this person. Again, we're talking about true twin flames. We're not talking about falsely labeling someone. There is this major difference. If this were a case study and people would talk about to real twin flames, they have already sorted out who is falsely labeling someone. So that was like the first stage of sorting people out, and now they have this group and they know, okay, they all have this major ascension journey, and then they talk to each person, and then they would find, okay, you're all going through the same stuff. And then a scientist would say, so there seems to be like a blueprint, like a program that is happening to all of the people. They meet somebody and rapidly have spiritual awakening, ascension, are completely different people than they were before. So a scientist would say, okay, this has to be connected to the meeting. So something must have gone on here. And again, when we're dealing with real twin flames and not with catalysts, it's not one-sided. It's not one-sided. I just recorded a video about how long does a twin flame journey take, and I said, yeah, it's on the feminine to the side. So she steps into the center, and then the guy usually does the work. So it's not the entire thing simultaneously. She has to step ahead, and then he follows, and then they meet. But after all, a twin flame connection, they both have the eye contact awakening. Both feel it in the beginning, and then the program starts, and we do have one who is more the distorted feminine energy, one the distorted masculine energy. So this is another pattern that's going on. The masculine will change his life drastically as well. Maybe he is a step behind, yes. But remember, a true twin flame connection is two-sided, and that is why somebody you just saw online or you saw on TV and you think, oh my God, they did something to me, that must be my celebrity twin flame. It is not, because a twin flame is for two souls that chose to meet and to have something happening prior on the first meeting. It shifted, and then yes, one person may be oppressing for a while, has to, if the other person has fears of abandonment, for example, but once she is making progress, he will have to follow. So both will make progress. So there is this pattern going on. And even if you don't believe in twin flame, but then do the research and you will acknowledge, you will find out that people are talking about the same thing. They're having the same experience. And then give it another label. Then I don't know what you want to call it. We can't call it twin flame because it makes it easier, because this term already has some consent in society. When a person says twin flame, then there's people who immediately understand what you're talking about. If you would name them something completely else, people would be like, wait, what are you talking about? I have no idea. This, when you talk about signs, is proof in itself. It is not a singled out incident. It does happen to multiple people. They are all experiencing the same thing. It is some kind of program that is running. It is some kind of law of nature. It is not isolated incidents. It does happen to many people. However, of course, not to as many who think it does happen to them, because everybody has an ego, and some people just have this amped up ego because maybe they have had some childhood problems and they just desire to have a twin flame because they learned about it, they heard about it, and if they think a twin flame would complete them. And those people are most likely not dealing with a twin flame, or they are in the very, very beginning, because when you're a true twin flame, you realize that this person does not, you are already perfect the way you already are complete. This person would just enhance your energy. They're not the other half of your soul, because you already are a complete, like biological twins. If this mass of cells separates and we have two embryos, they're not half embryos. Okay, we're not talking about Siamese twins. Okay, we're talking about biological twins. We have two separate people that are each perfect but still have a special bond because they were once. I hope this helps. So find the patterns. If you don't believe me, go find patterns and learn to read out the falsely labeled twin flames, those who are still in the anger energy. The false ones are the ones who are pointing at the other person and saying, oh, they did something to me and they're evil and they're narcissist and they're XYZ, because that's very distorted energy, has nothing to do with divine energy. You will find the people on the right journey who say, oh my God, I had this Kundalini awakening, something happened and I just feel it's this person, and yeah, there are some hard days, but most of all I'm just at peace with this because I know this is my person and they give me more positive than they take from me. And by that I don't mean physically they give you like gifts, but this journey, this experience, it gives you more light-hearted energy, it gives you ascension knowledge, and it does take away from you in some hard days, because sometimes we do get triggered, of course, but the positive definitely outweighs the negative. And then you have found twin flames, or at least people who are on a divine counterpart journey, and then you compare their stories and you will find a red thread, and that proves that there is something going on. I hope this helped. If it did, then don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. If it did help you and you want to leave a tip, my PayPal is below. Of course, I am available for personal coaching, and check out my other videos, and I see you there and wish you all the best now. Bye bye.